what's going on, everybody? Welcome into another edition of the Tuesday Track Talk, episode number 35 with your Three Stones Pit Crew. I'm your tire changer, Cam,
I'm your Jack Man, Kellen.
I'm your gas man, Cam.
and we got another fantastic episode lined up here for you guys. So buckle in, relax, grab your favorite drink, and settle in because we got a lot to talk about because there was a lot of things that happened this week. But before we dive into any of that stuff, what's going on, fellas, since we last reconvened with each other?
No, got out to a new track this weekend. So, Lafayette County Speedway down here in the southwest corner of Wisconsin. So, just a weekly show. The fiance was gone, so I'm like, yeah, I'll bounce over there. It was like 23 minutes from the house or something. So,
There you
uh,
go.
easy, just a weekly show. They run a tight ship and they did a really good job with that. I left the house at 5:30 and I was back home in bed at 10 after 10. So, five classes of race and they ran a tight ship. It was like 2.5 hours total. Um, hats off to them. They did a really good job.
Let's say
No.
I took in some local racing as well on Friday. It's a long night for me, but it was a good car count. They had, what the hell was the number? They had over 120 cars in the pits, something like that,
Yeah.
out of all the divisions that they had. So Penn Sauter broke in practice. Wasn't going to race. They told him to leave so they could have room in the pits.
Oh,
So yeah,
God.
that's how that went. Otherwise, I've got this Kyle Larson diecast sitting here in front of me. I showed you guys on the old Snapchat.
Yeah, fire that bad boy up. Let's see
Yeah,
what you want.
this thing is sweet. I love this thing. Signed by Larson and Paul Silva. Yeah, this thing is just like even the steer bars. I don't know what you call them. Yeah, I can't really show it to you on there, but the steer bars even work on this thing. Oh, that's why it's because on the other side.
Oh shit. Yeah, that thing's
So
bad for
no,
going.
this thing is slick to say the least. That just adds on to my double. I got the two double cars, the Coke 600 and the Indy 500, and I got a late model waiting to show up too.
Nice.
So
With that same signature on there that my Aaron Rodgers rookie card has that he supposedly signed. No, in all honesty though, that diecast is super sweet.
it's bigger than I thought it was going to be too, which isn't a bad thing with the size of the cars. So no, that thing came out pretty slick.
Pretty sweet. Well,
Yeah, no, nothing new for me. Obviously, I took in a ton of racing this weekend, not at track, but online. Watched some Mars late models. They put on a heck of a show there, little bull ring. Um, so that was fantastic. And I'm trying to think what I watched on Friday night. High Limit. High Limit was racing. Um, put on another banger of a show. And then obviously, we got a lot to discuss on the All-Star race. That was Mother Nature was not to be defeated. She took away a lot of the weekend, but we got the main part in. So no, looking forward to just talking a lot of racing with the old pit crew.
Well, let's get into it then, shall we? Got a couple here, so we're covering a lot of storylines that happened over the weekend or over the week, or kind of revisiting another topic that we talked about earlier in the year. So we just got a couple of quick hitters when it comes to race recaps here. First, we're going to start with the World Outlaw late models. They had a few races this weekend, but we're going to kind of focus on Raceway 7 from this past weekend. And it's the first time the series has ever been there. So it was a little bit of learning for everybody that was there. Um, but still put on a good race. So we kind of got a shake up in the standings coming out of this one as well.
coming out of the weekend itself, even.
Yeah.
Yeah, Nick Hoffman grabs your point lead for World Outlaws. He finished. Where did he finish?
I finished
Fourth,
fourth or fifth on the first night.
fourth on that first night, and that was enough to give him a 2 point lead. And I actually had just looked before he hopped on here. He still has the point lead by 4 over Brandon Shepard.
Yep.
So, yeah, that was a hell of a race they put on. Chris Madden grabbed the lead early, and he he led a lot of laps, just didn't run away with it, but Bronson was all over him.
Oh, yeah.
So they racing hard, racing clean. But they put on a hell of a show there at Raceway 7. That's fun to watch.
Yeah,
So,
then but Madden had a good weekend, got 2 more wins.
yeah.
Winning Thursday and then Saturday. Hoffman finished 3rd on Saturday, with Shepard finishing 8th. And then Bobby Pierce also won on the weekend, with Hoffman finishing 7th and Shepard finishing 3rd. So I mean, that's going to be a tight battle all year long, and especially if Bobby Pierce starts kind of ramping his way back up into that point standings, or sorry, Bobby Pierce gets ramps up in that standings. It's going to be interesting coming down to it.
Yeah, for sure. I was gonna say,
I don't think it's a question of if he's going to do it. It's going to be a question of when.
Yeah.
And so, no, like you guys said, this is going to shake out to be obviously a fantastic points battle. We always talk about, it takes one weekend for a guy to get, build some serious confidence. Is this the weekend for Chris Madden? Obviously, Nick Hoffman coming off a Rookie of the Year, and then, his biggest payday 2 weeks ago at Mississippi Thunder, obviously point lead. And I think it's safe to say he's got a pretty good grasp on this late model thing. So, obviously you got Bishop in there. I mean, it's going to be fun to watch. You got, 4 or 5 guys that are in the mix, and then you throw in, you show up to a track, and then somebody like the Killer Bee, Kyle Bronson, you're going to get somebody like that's going to show up there and throw a wrench in that cluster of guys at the top of the point standing. So, no, going to be a fun series to follow along with, and that points battle is going to get, it's going to feel like when it comes down to the end, almost like a cutoff race for a NASCAR. You're going to be watching, and one bad night when it get down to the end of it, one bad night could cost you the championship. So,
yeah, for sure. Madden had a good weekend. Hoffman had a really good weekend too. Madden picked up 2 of the 3 feature wins, so he certainly can't complain about that performance for the weekend.
No, we were talking about points a little bit. I got him pulled up here. Kyle Bronson's 82 points back. Bobby Pierce is 112 points back. Madden is 60 back. Cade Dillard is not 50 back. Just kind of keeping himself in the conversation.
Yep.
But
where did he win right away this year? Did he win one at the Wild West Shootout? He got to win. He got to win to start the year.
Or was it Volusia? No, that was Wild West Shootout because he swept the night. He had that
because it was not a World Outlaw race either.
He swept the night with that late model, and then he hopped in his modified, and he what felt like lapped the field that night.
He cost us 20 minutes at Cedar Lake last year at that battery. Remember that?
Yeah.
I
remember that.
They weren't waiting for him, but they found a way to get it changed.
Yeah. But no, I mean, again, you throw a couple of those guys in there too. It's only going to get more interesting as the season goes along. And I do feel like outside obviously the penalty is helping Bobby Pierce not have the lead, but needless to say, it's going to make a fun storyline to follow.
For sure.
Points battle. So,
about to say, we're talking about points battles. You talked about Rico Abreu finally getting a win with high limit as well. I think that was long time coming for him. Still Brad Sweet and Tyler Courtney fighting for the high limit point standings as well. Courtney's 34 points back. Brett Marks is kind of hanging there at 113, but it's really those top 2, and them 2 guys have been dominant all year too.
Honestly, lights out.
So that'll be another one that'll be very fun to watch. Now, otherwise, if we kind of circle back to Raceway 7, like we said, Chris Madden was winner, Kyle Bronson was 2nd, Dillard was 3rd. We talked about him a little bit. Hoffman 4th, Sorensen 5th, Bruning 6th, Devin Moran 7th, Hess was 8th. Cody Overton was 9th, Pierce, Troutman, Dennis Erb Jr. were top 12 in that one there.
Yeah. Good race. Place looked fun.
Yep. So, but no, again, they got a lot of racing coming up here. This weekend is going to be fun. We'll cover that here in a little bit as far as what's all going on, but still heat of the points battle and be interesting to watch. So, any other thoughts? Any other dirt racing you guys want to touch on hot quickly before we move on here?
No, I think we said all that needs to be said. That series is putting
Um,
on. A lot of times I feel like we talk about Lucas Oil and the JD and the Ricky Thornton Jr. and those guys of the world, but no, that series is producing. The points battle is just heating up, and it's going to be fun to follow along throughout the summer.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the other one that we really wanted to cover here, because again, we're gonna get a lot of storylines either out of this one or out of the news that's been going on here recently. But the All-Star race at North Wilkesboro, obviously a big deal going on there, racing back there. And I mean, you had a ton of storylines going into that one. Um, between qualifying, you're going back to the short track field, the repave there. So I mean, where do you guys want to start, really?
um, I, I mean, I think you got to start with the qualifying with the pit crews. That determined your pit box selection.
Oh yeah.
Uh, it was a little bit of everything. You had one hot lap, a 4 tire pit stop, and then you had to come back around and checker. So right out of the gate, qualifying was speeding penalties. It was guys over. It was the jack not getting the car off the ground high enough. It was all over the place. So it wasn't just raw speed. So that out of the gate, you couldn't hardly look away from that either. So before they obviously practiced, but before that, it was before the racing even started. We're looking at the pit crew going, oh, we're going to see where we get to pick our pit box from, and that was obviously just for the cars that are locked in. But
Yeah.
um, yeah, I loved the qualifying.
And that kind of reminds us of like the old pit crew challenge back in the old Sprint Cup days. I always loved when they put that on, get the guys separated out and they got to push the car down.
Yep.
That was always a blast. I think that's something they should consider bringing back. This would be a good one. Do it for the All-Star guys. Doesn't need to be
Yep.
everybody. You can still keep the same format. It locks in the pit stall selections.
Yeah, I do like the when they used to do it at Charlotte, and there was no pit road timing markers or anything, so you'd have guys
Oh
come
yeah.
come hauling off the
Sailing in
board,
there.
coming onto pit road about
Yikes.
120 miles an hour.
My
It was
God.
all bars of hold, and you got guys hauling off into four, trying to
Yeah.
cross the apron and keep it together. But no,
Wasn't it Newman that pretty much drifted in the one year?
yep, yeah, yeah. That just reminded me when you talk about that, going back a little bit on that. That reminded me of that. Those guys go hauling off the floor, and it's like, oh, well, here they come.
Yeah.
Guys sliding through their pit box about 60 mile an hour.
No,
Jesus.
I think too, Kellen, to your point, the pit crew, I think it's a super cool idea. Because again, on Sundays they don't always get the rain or shine or the celebration they always deserve. They're not, I shouldn't say rain or shine. They don't always get showcased. Um,
Yeah.
they do the dirty work that sometimes go unnoticed where, they get
They did
somebody,
some dirty work this weekend too.
yeah, where they get
Later on.
where you got the ability to change the race. You get your guy, 3 spots and get him a spot on the front, restarting on the front row. Like they have the ability, and you could see from some of those interviews, they're interviewing. I think it was Christopher Bell's pit crew, and like they obviously were amped up. They're like, we are in the spotlight. This is our time to shine. If there's a time for us to nail a pit stop or have the best one of the year, this is the night. So I think it's super cool for them. Kind of puts a spotlight on them for a night, and obviously they were amped up to, you know, prove they're the best of the best as well. Couldn't
Yeah,
hang
for
with
sure.
us, but
Otherwise, obviously, North Wilkesboro, you really get that short track feel between, it's definitely an age track and you get a little bit smaller grandstands. It just definitely has that local short track feel to it. And I think you saw that a lot too, kind of as things were going on over the weekend. Um, they handled the flooding there pretty well as well. I don't know if you guys saw any of those videos or photos that were circulating around.
But yeah. Yeah, they had a little water in the infield there at one point.
Do you guys see the video of the guy swimming in it?
Yeah. Yeah.
The one guy did the old belly flop.
Yep.
Is that
Yep.
what you're
That's the
talking
one.
about?
Yep.
Yeah.
That was pretty funny. But the other thing that kind of came into it, and I think this was a good combination with it, was the track getting paved and then the tire option, the little bit softer tire
Yeah.
for this one as well. Obviously it brought in some strategy and played out, guys could play their cards a little bit differently. I think especially that first caution really put that in the crew chief's hands as far as the decision to make.
Yeah. So when we come back around to this, we'll talk about this tire thing. But it flipped the race upside down right away, right from the get-go it did.
Yeah. And
You guys,
honestly, it didn't pay off very well in that short to mid run for them guys that did stay out, or no, sorry, that did take the harder tire. It just never really came in, kind of thing.
correct. Yeah, it took a long, long run for that to flip.
Yeah. Yep. And I mean, they had a lot of long runs do that too.
And this kind of alludes to another topic as this is a little bit less about the racing, but I don't know if you guys saw, but Dale Jr. says we should cement all the tunnels shut in all these racetracks.
Yep. I saw that. I saw that. And I think we obviously know why that was brought up.
Yeah. We also know why the first caution 2 laps in, what the conversation was there. We'll touch on that a little bit too, but
Yeah. I think another thing we got to touch on too is that obviously they adjusted the schedule a little bit with Larson and his double duty deal that he's got going on, which I want to touch on the IndyCar side and then we'll touch on the NASCAR side of it. IndyCar side, what did you guys think of his qualifying effort? I'm curious for you guys.
he just ripped it.
I was thoroughly impressed with his qualifying run.
He was in there like he's been in a car
Yeah.
for a long time.
Yeah. I figured he was going to do good, but I didn't think he was doing that good.
No, at the end of the day, we just needed him locked into the show because the dude is smart enough. He'll be able to learn on the fly, but to have an effort like that, he just saved himself a lot of trouble not having to pass a ton of cars right out of the gate.
Yeah, 100%.
Track position.
100%.
The other thing you talk about too, which I don't think it goes unnoticed is just the mental side of it to stay locked in after he went out there right away and he had the mechanical issue and
Yep.
to know, hey, he's got to have a good run. Obviously he knew he was going to get to go out again, but still to go out there and obviously all the pressure's on to put down a good 4 laps and then to have something like that happen. And it's like, did this opportunity just get wiped away from me? But to just stay locked in as he was and go out there and put down the 4 lap average that he did, 232. I mean, we're watching a generational talent and boy, we are lucky to have him in the sport of NASCAR.
Absolutely.
I was kind of thinking, I started to think about it a little bit. You kind of wonder if his inexperience is helping him with the idea of sometimes what you don't know doesn't hurt you.
Yep.
He hops in that car where something might not feel right to a veteran, but to him, he doesn't know the difference. So it maybe doesn't bother him.
Yeah. Because they asked him about the speed too. And he's like, sure, I'm going faster, but it doesn't feel any different.
Yeah, at 242 miles an hour. I don't want to be in charge of trying to scare that guy.
No.
I mean, so obviously he's going 242 and 40 miles an hour is a big pickup, but I mean, he's been 200 at a restrictor plate in a NASCAR. So
yeah,
232, on a 4 lap average, 240. I mean, obviously it's still faster and I think the stability of it obviously is going to get, there's a lot less wiggle room in an Indy car. But I mean, he's not, I don't know.
I think the other thing too is like it's the hitting the marks portion of it, whether it's riding the curb in the sprint car or riding the wall in the cup car. It's the hitting that line and staying in that line helped
Yeah.
them with especially trying to hit the apex of the IndyCar of Indianapolis.
Yeah. Yeah,
So,
dude didn't miss a beat.
and then obviously with him qualifying and him getting as far as was, there was a little bit of worry about him traveling to Charlotte to make the All-Star race. So they ended up moving the race back a little bit, which it was all for naught, wasn't necessarily needed, but just a precautionary thing that they did and could do with it being the All-Star race as well.
You know, at first I didn't know what I thought about, but at the end of the day, that little bit of downtime after driver intros I liked it. I enjoyed it. It gave you a chance to soak in all of North Wilkesboro because we don't get to go there any other time of the year.
Yeah.
So that little extra half an hour of like driver interviews, looking at the crowd, checking out everything else, like looking back on it, I did enjoy that because it just allowed you to soak up the nostalgia of that place.
Yeah.
So yeah, no, it's good. I was hesitant at first about it, but I mean, at the end of the day, he is ours per se. You know, he's an NASCAR driver first at this point. So
Yep. And they announced Wilkesboro also announced too that they're going to be the 2025 host of the All-Star race as well. So they're going back there again.
yep.
So that'll be cool as well. We did have a race as well, obviously.
Yep.
We'll touch on the early caution here in a little bit, but just overall thoughts on the race itself.
The Gluck pole was terrible. I thought it was a good race.
I'll say my thoughts for. We'll get into tire, and I'll throw my thoughts in that section.
I think it was your typical short track race with maybe another line or two you could run. And the experimentation of the tire.
So as of right now, where we sit, there's 12 hours left in the Gluck poll. Was the All-Star race a good race? 36.9% yes, 63.1% no. On 28,900 votes.
So I mean, pretty consistent with the other votes that it's gotten over the past couple of weeks.
So the vote number is there. It just the answer was no.
For reference, last week when we did this, it was at 23.7 thousand votes. And we recorded at about the same time.
Yep.
So we got 5,000 more votes and we got it that drastic of a change. So I don't know. It's just, I think it's no secret that the short track package is not very good with these cars.
I know. I just thought the tire thing would influence that a little bit more.
Yeah.
There's more intrigue and more strategy to it. But
Yep, and I agree.
I also think we could go another 100 to 150 laps. Let's run it a little bit longer. It was short.
Yeah.
It felt short. It was like it started, we got into it, and it was over.
Yeah.
I'd like to see it a little bit longer. Now I get it. You don't want to beat up a whole bunch of equipment because it's not a points race, but let it play out a little bit longer. Let's see if somebody can do something crazy with a strategy or a.
Okay, well, so how about this? And given this could change the strategy or you see something else go along with it, why not go back to the invert like we used to do?
Okay. Yeah, that too. Give them each an allotted number of each compounded tire. Now we're gonna run an invert.
Do a dice roll. Let the crew chief do the dice roll.
Yeah. All of the short track stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I know I didn't think it was that bad as the poll says, but I guess I'm also really biased on short track racing.
Yeah.
So
I'll save the majority of my thoughts for when we get into the in-depth on the tire and passing and stuff like that.
All right.
well,
Fair enough.
We'll get into the weeds.
So top 10 for this one. Joey Logano ends up your winner. He's $1 million richer. Fun fact, Bob Pocker says drivers probably take home about 30 to 50% of that purse.
oh,
He figures. Depending on their contracts with the teams.
yeah, so that's $300,000 to $500,000.
There's an incentive to win.
Correct.
Otherwise, Denny Hamlin, Chris Buescher, Kyle Larson, Ryan Blaney, Bubba Wallace, Ross Chastain, Chase Elliott, Michael McDowell, and Kyle Busch were your top 10 for that one. Another good showing for Ford. They're
Yeah,
starting to come along,
that's okay. It only took them 800 practice laps, so we'll talk about that a little bit.
but they're coming along. They're getting there.
800
So,
practice laps, but
yep.
yep.
All right. So, any other thoughts here with North Wilkesboro? We'll hit some off topics and storylines.
No, I know. I just kind of before we get into our another new segment here, because we love adding new segments to this whole thing. I do think it is worthy to mention the other winners of the week. Is that where you're headed here, Van Grohl?
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
So, we talked about Ricky Abreu getting a win. Tyler Courtney also got a win at Kokomo. Brad Sweet also got a win again with the High Limit Series. One that I really wanted to shout out was the USAC Silver Crown. They raced in Belleville. Kaylee Bryson becomes the first woman to win a USAC Silver Crown race.
Yeah.
So that one was just worth a shout out. Connor Zilich won in the ARCA series. When it came down to Indy 500 qualifying, Scott McLaughlin is your pole sitter for the Indy 500 at it was 234 or sorry. Yeah, 234, 220.
Yeah.
Which is the fastest qualifying run in Indy history for the Indy 500. So that was really cool.
Yeah.
Ron Silk, one of the wheel and modifieds. Our boy Brandon Reichenberger, he got himself a win in the truck series.
Potentially the last ever truck race at State Park. That's pretty cool.
Yep.
Yeah,
David Gravel won with the World Outlaws. Gibbs won the open race. We should probably point out as well. He went flag to flag in the open race. Logan Seavey won in the midget series as well. And I mean, that kind of covers a lot of the national series. We got some other local stuff, but that covers the national series of what was all going on. Good racing overall. Got a
Yeah.
couple of storylines out of it, but
Yep. All right, I'm ready for this next segment.
all right. So this one's going to be a little more focused on you because you're the one that's coming up with this.
Oh yeah,
It's called Caution at the Concessions.
Cam was the brains in the name, but
Oh, you were in the brains of that one. That's right. Yep. So, basically what it is I think all of us are gonna, whenever we go to a track, we're gonna set out to, it's like the pizza review that Portnoy does, or I know Glenny Balls a while back did burger reviews at restaurants. It's basically the burger review
it's the
for
tank.
racetracks.
It's the raw dogging Frank Fleming racetrack edition.
Yeah.
And we can also tie it back into if nobody listened to it or watch it, we put out an episode in early April, do's and don'ts of the racetrack. And where this all stemmed from was, hey, when you go to the racetrack, what are some do's and don'ts at the concession stand? And obviously we talked about, we typically stay away from spicy food and stuff like that. So
Stuff just ain't gonna settle well.
correct. And so we came up with the old caution at the concession stand because sometimes Calvin was talking about after Madison, he was strong consideration. He was going to go outside the comfort zone and try something a little bit new. I forget what it was, that pulled pork mac and cheese in a cup.
Yep.
So we're going to call it caution at the concession stands.
Oh,
Uh-oh.
Or there's a good chance Calvin's going to be getting. Oh,
you
am I back?
Yep, you're back. You just
You're back.
paused
Sorry.
for like 5 seconds.
Yeah, we just said, it's caution at the concession stand because Kellen and Van Grohl are probably going to stick with their typical cheeseburger, but you proceed with caution. And then also, Kellen's he's been thinking about broadening his palate and maybe
His
trying
culinary
something new.
desires.
So we're calling it caution at the concessions because again, you proceed with caution. Some of these burgers you look at and they've been sitting under the hot light for 4 hours. Use your caution, but and use caution when you're going to broaden your horizon and try something you typically don't. So think this will be a little bit more of a fun segment for the boys to report back, and you guys can, if you want to, whatever you guys want to use to judge it, how it went down, how it came out, whatever you guys want to talk about.
So, and we can't have a new segment without having some data to go with this. We've been doing our homework since the middle of April for this now. So kind of going on top of that, my thing is that it's been a cheeseburger. I'll do a cheeseburger everywhere I go. I'm gonna rank them all top to bottom, whatever. Now, if I do find something that would interest me, I might step out of my comfort zone a little bit. But for the time being, the cheeseburger is gonna be the staple, and then we'll maybe stray with something a little bit different there. So Lafayette County Friday night, headed down there for Friday night racing. Of course, I did what I did, and I went and got a cheeseburger right before feature time. Um, Pretty solid. Burger was good. The cheese was on there for about 6 seconds before it got handed to me. Service on point, great. People were awesome. Food was quick. Cheese was a little chili. Rollover burger was decent. The bun was rock solid. The bun pulled the average up on that hard. But it just didn't have the wrapped in tinfoil underneath the heat lamp. Some people that scares some people. To me, I look for that. That's the burger that shines. At the end of the day, I brought this one in at a 6.7 out of 10. So, I wouldn't be hesitant to get another one. I wouldn't maybe hesitate to try something else. So when I'm looking at my rankings right now for my cheeseburger rankings, you have Madison International, Wisconsin Dells, Slinger, and then Darlington. Those are the 4 I've been to. So
when you
been collecting a little data before we got to roll this segment out, because you can't just go, it's the first one, they're the winner. So yep.
Yeah, so just let us know each week when you go to the track and you try our cheeseburger. Just let us know where she slots in.
P3, so you'll get another one here this weekend, which we'll preview here in a little while. But
Saturday, maybe I'll do something crazy on Saturday.
Yeah, we should also Van Grohl. We should put it out there. If Kellen's going to stick cheeseburger, obviously you are. To us, you are the pit lizard for a reason. You are literally at the racetrack every single weekend. So what's going to be your staple? Are you going to go? I mean, you got to be visiting the concession stand. What's going to be your staple? You going to go with a cheeseburger, burger?
I mean,
what are you thinking?
If it's not a cheeseburger, it's typically a brat, is what I'm going for.
Okay, so we got cheeseburger, brat.
Nope. It's like some of them I have track specials. So like Golden Sands, I love their popcorn. I don't know what it is. It's like they put cocaine or something in it. Because I mean, it hits the spot.
All right.
Otherwise, WIR and Kellen, you can attest to this. They got lots of matzo pizza.
Yep, sliced pizza.
So I'll get the pizza while I'm there as well. So no, it varies from track to track. I'll maybe dip into chicken tenders every once in a while. That's a favorite of mine on the cross.
The tendies.
We had some tendies at Cedar Lake last year, and they were
they were excellent.
Yeah.
Yep. So nope, I could hit some of that other stuff, the basic stuff. I don't get into the pulled pork and mac and cheese and all that stuff. I don't need to go exquisite.
What about a walking taco? Anybody
Nope.
ever?
Nope. No. Those are off limits.
So if you're looking for a new one, Madison, they're doing a burger of the month. Right now, starting this week, their burger of the month is going to be a burger with a little slab of cream cheese and then a pickle. So if you're looking to try something different, there you go. But that's the caution at the concession stand segment edition number 1. We've been collecting data on the background on this, so felt like this was the premier opportunity to roll this out. No, I don't know. That so far I haven't hit a miss. So I'm feeling good. I'm on a hot streak.
And if you ever hit a miss, it's going to be a DNQ.
Correct.
Or DNF, however we want to.
Yeah.
Yep. But yeah.
Nope. We'll have another one here coming up this weekend. So we'll
DNF,
add to it.
The only way a DNF is
if you don't finish it.
Yeah, that's the true. A DNQ could be choked it down. And we got the more we sit here and think, we got a lot of different ways we can take this segment. So stay tuned.
Yeah, we'll be adding layers to this as it goes. But I do think we can get back to like the racing conversations here.
Yes, and so kind of circling back to topic that we did earlier this year, we did our report cards or, our predictions for what we figured race teams would do this year. We've been kind of talking about this team quite on and off this year. We figured now is probably a good time to do it. It's kind of, the quote unquote all-star break.
Yep.
So you check in with everybody. So, and one that in particular that we want to check in on, just again, because we've talked about it a little bit, SHR. There's a lot of conversation to go around that team right now. So we figured no better than now to do that one. And Kellen, that was the one that you had earlier this year as far as our predictions report cards go.
Yeah, so when I look at this, kind of just as a refresher, what we had mentioned in our report cards, I had said 2 and or more cars in the playoffs, one in the round of 8, and then they're like a 4 to 8 team. So I
Mid-pack
had
team.
middle of pack team. Well, I had said the three cars that were going to get on the playoffs were going to be Barry, Briscoe, and Gregson. So we're all 4 on the outside looking in. And then when I had ranked them going into the season, I had Barry, Briscoe, Gregson, and Priest. So all of those I have 1 in the correct spot, based on where they sit in the points right now. So where they are in the points right now, it's Briscoe, Gregson, Barry, Priest. So they're kind of looking at the stats. None of them have won a stage. Top 5s, you got Briscoe, Gregson, and Barry each have 1. Priest does not. Top 10s, Briscoe and Gregson both have 5. Barry's got 1. Priest has got 1. DNFs, Briscoe, Gregson, and Priest each have 1. And then Barry's got 2. So laps led, Briscoe 12, Gregson 10, Barry 31, Priest 0. So when you look at it across the boards, they are bringing equal equipment to the racetrack, or the changes they are making are leveling out these cars. So I think they're trending in the right direction to finish where we thought they would, but we're a little behind yet.
And I would say even too that they each have their Briscoe and Gregson in particular, I think have their strengths. Briscoe does pretty good where you can start up front and kind of stay up front. Whereas Gregson isn't great in qualifying, but he can make a race out of it. He could continue to fight his way through.
Correct. He can make ground somewhere if he needs to.
Yep. And we just haven't. Barry's come on the past couple of races, but still looking for some, and Priest is just struggling.
I thought Bristol was going to be Barry's kind of coming out party a little bit.
Yeah. Or Martinsville.
He was up front, both of those. He was battling in the top 10 most of the day. But
he obviously strives in the short tracks. That's
his. And I just figured I would be able to find him some momentum and some confidence and give him something to roll with. But unfortunately, they have not been able to string those pieces together.
And unfortunately, I mean, we've talked about it. There's been a lot of smoke coming out of that shop. Rumors, charters to the entire building, to the entire operation. Obviously, there's a lot of smoke coming out of that building about SHR's future. And I hate to say it, but the longer this goes on, it's not getting any better. You see the interview that Bob Pockers put out this week that drivers aren't being told anything. They obviously are aware of all the rumors that are circulating and seeing it online, but they are told nothing. And I think it was Chase Briscoe was quoted saying, "Nobody around here knows anything." So obviously you got that looming over them. And then you have Kevin Harvick who gets in a Hendrick car and they ask, what was your 2 weeks like or what was your week like with Hendrick? And he said, well, I've heard twice from the owner in the last 2 weeks. That's something new. So then Kevin's 1 year from Stewart-Haas and he's already throwing jabs back at the organization. So there's just not a lot of good news coming out from the entire SHR camp. Then you go back to Priest getting left out of driver meetings. yeah, I don't know. I can't help but think, that's got to be a distraction for those guys off the
Yeah.
racetrack to come home and think about,
Am I gonna have a job?
am I going to have
Yeah.
a job? And then Briscoe says he's contractually, he can't talk to anybody. Like he can't start putting out a feeler, hey, SHR is going to sell everything, so I'm going to be jobless next year. Like he can't do that because he's obviously under contract. So it just is it's not a good situation. Is what it comes down to.
And kind of going back to that, when you talk about next year, it was, I don't know if you guys caught it, but Gregson was the only SHR car that found himself in All-Star race. How did he get in? Fan vote. And what did he say? That's something I can use to leverage to help myself in the future if need be.
Yep.
Yeah, and you don't want to have to think like that, but at the end of the day, it's another feather in your cap that if you need it, you can say I got voted into the All-Star race because the fans like me.
Well, but then that's the thing too. It's as a team owner side of things, that's merchandise that's going to sell for me.
Bingo. They can sell the $7 cotton t-shirt for $25 with his picture and car on it and do that a couple million times a week and you're gonna be in a pretty good spot.
Yep.
But yeah, I know. I caught that and I'm like, so he's kind of thinking ahead here a little bit, kind of wondering with the old rumor mill getting a little fired up, but yeah, man, that
You reaching for that whiteboard of yours?
Yeah, but not for all the wrong reasons. Quick bathroom break, quick pit stop.
No.
Before we get into the next section, because I got a lot of talking points to get into, but
Yeah.
quick pit stop. I'll be right back. Just no fuel, empty.
no. Are we? Is SHR in that 4 to 8 as a team range yet? No.
If they are, they're at the 7 or 8.
'Cause I was trying to, I was thinking about it. You got Hendrick, Gibbs, 2311,
RFK.
RFK, and then you start to go
I would think about front row.
front row or Penske.
Penske's got to be there.
So now we're
Here.
looking at 6.
Let's do.
Where do you plug Trackhouse? They're kind of in the same conversation a little bit of
Yeah, well, Trackhouse, Chastain's 10th in points. Or sorry, I should probably look at it this way. Yes, Chastain's 10th in points.
But that's where
RCR.
I think, but Dylan has just been struggling so bad. Like
He has as well.
Priest isn't great, but I even think Priest might be running him.
Yeah, like I said, it's got to be that 7 to 8 range if they're there. That 7 to 8, that 7, 8, 9, and 10 changes every week.
Yep. It fluctuates a ton.
Yep.
Yeah.
The story of the entire team is they can't string an entire weekend together.
And especially when you look at, I mean, obviously the top two in Hendrick and Joe Gibbs, all their cars are good.
Yeah.
You look at and RFK really, both their cars are good. You look at 2311, Bubba has his moments, but I think Reddick's obviously the shiner there. Trackhouse, Chastain is the shiner there. RCR, Busch is the shiner. Penske is pretty much Blaney and Logano. RFK, or not RFK, for Stewart-Haas, it's probably Briscoe and Gregson.
Those are the ones that find themselves in the conversation the most.
Yep.
What race was it earlier this year that Briscoe he wrecked out running up front? He did the 4 wide move. Atlanta. Briscoe was running up front at Atlanta.
Yeah.
And he sent it 4 wide and he was running up front there. But the team as a whole, I just feel like they can't string it all together.
But again, with the amount of stuff that's going on in that shop too.
Yeah.
I saw something interesting here too. Like the first initial, if charters are for sale, the first initial selling point was 20 20 million a piece.
Yeah, Brad gave
When
me that last night. Yeah,
when who would have bought the last one? When Live Fast sold theirs to a Leaf Track House, it was 40 mil.
so he's living large on that. Looking at that, going, "Oh, I'm lucky I got out when I did."
So,
Yeah,
but the market isn't there for anybody to buy them either. Nobody, obviously, Junior's the one that's really been the guy that everybody thinks should be buying one, but he just isn't interested.
correct.
So if you got him not interested, who else isn't interested? And that's going to drive that price down to get somebody to buy.
Yeah.
It's supply and demand in pure effect.
What it comes down to is we pretty much can guarantee Trackhouse is going to buy one of them.
I would agree.
Because they're not going to leave Zane Smith out of a car with
Correct.
the move of McDowell going to Spires. So you have that, but
But but the other thing too is that we're not to the point where in the season where we're worried about guaranteed spots. All it is just you're guaranteed money.
correct.
That's what it is. So I don't know.
Well,
That'll be interesting. But
at the end of the day, time will tell.
yep, 100%.
We'll get an answer here somewhere.
Yep. Cam, it looks like you're chomping at the bit for this next one, so we'll move on here.
Yeah.
Tires and testing. We said that Ford came out this weekend, and obviously, I think they took advantage of the tire test that they did at Wilkesboro. What, about a month and a half ago, something like that. I don't know where you guys heard this, but I never did. But 800 laps at Wilkesboro for that tire test.
He said it, and I forget who retweeted it or put it on X.
Get it right. I'm getting ready to get rammy for this next section. So
door bumper clear. What's his name?
Brett Griffin.
Yes, he put out a tweet that he said that Logano had gotten 800 laps in testing and that it's not fair. It's not fair to anybody else.
How you handle your test session is completely up to you, but who gets to do the test session is always, it's not randomized, but there's a process as far as the selection goes. So it's purely how you handle your test session when you have the opportunity. And if Logano and his crew want to run 800 laps and barely take any breaks, I feel like that's up to them.
Yeah, but then how do they determine who gets to practice?
It's typical. So if NASCAR does it, it's every manufacturer gets to go. And the manufacturers pick typically throughout a rotation of drivers.
okay.
And same with Goodyear's. It's typical because you never see the same drivers go to these tests. But it's probably only going to be drivers that are in like the top tier, that tier A as far as supply and data go from the manufacturers. So it's going to be your Gibbs, it's going to be your Penske's, your Hendrick, your now front row.
I guess my thought process
I
after
saw it a while back. I just don't remember the exact details.
I guess the moral of the story when I think about it, and I think about after reading Griffin's tweet about him having 800 laps in and he did the practice section, and you can't help but go, gee, I wonder why he won.
They should give everyone else a P1 instead of he can anyone that did the tire test can spectate the first practice session. Then we'll think about practice too, maybe.
He had completed 4 all-star races before he even showed up to the track this weekend. He had completed 4 all-star races, and you're gonna sit here and tell me like, hey, I wonder if there's any correlation to the guy that completed 4 of these races Is there any correlation as to why he won? Oh,
That was on the repave.
Yep.
Not to bring that up to the next conversation of, yes, they repaved it, and the engineering that they did with this is somebody who did road construction, how they managed to engineer putting the aggregate, the big rock on the top, and it to hold together was actually kind of incredible. They put the big stuff on the top to keep that characteristic in it, which to me was crazy. But he got to do that tire test on the repave. Well, hello, my guy. You're one of what? 4 that did? 3, 4?
And it's not like that track's wore in with rubber.
No.
Sure, it got rubber between the cars, tour practice sessions, and the truck race, but it also got a fucking monsoon of water, so it probably washed it all away.
jeez.
Am I wrong?
No.
Somebody's getting rammy.
Yeah.
You guys said we're getting rammy, so
I
No,
mean,
it did
I don't know,
rain
it's
enough to
just-
cover pit wall, yes, but correct. I don't know. But the thing is if you don't test, you don't have the answer.
let Stewart-Haas go there and run 4 all-star races before this. Let the team that's struggling the most send their entire team there. I mean, what sense does it make to send a champion to do
He's your
800
boy.
laps? Send somebody there that's struggling.
okay, but how
And
playing
you want to
devil's
do a
advocate,
tire test throughout the year at Phoenix? Jeez, what sense does that make?
playing devil's advocate here, what benefit can NASCAR or Goodyear get out of sending a team that's maybe struggling or have rookies on their team? A champion's going to be able to provide a ton of insight.
Yeah, I mean, yes and no. Playing devil's advocate, do you think Hendrick's going to get a lot of data if they send Kyle Larson in there, who openly says, "Hey, I don't really know much about these cars. I just tell Cliff Daniels, and Cliff Daniels makes the adjustments."
Sure, but he knows what to tell Cliff Daniels, and Cliff Daniels makes that adjustment.
Well, I'm just saying, Gregson might have a Cliff Daniels level crew chief as well, and so he can show up and he can run the same amount of laps as Larson, and he can tell his crew chief the same
Sure.
thing, and we can. I mean,
Same donkey, different circus.
correct, 100%. I don't know. It just is like,
Oh,
really? He completed 4 races there, 4 all-star races there before he even showed up for the weekend. And then
And
you
knew how that, and to that point knew how that softer tire was going to run then too.
100%. Gee,
Yeah.
you don't think that's an advantage? There's a reason that the only Stewart-Haas car got in was in by a fan vote.
Well, hey, I got a visitor now.
Gas
Cross-eyed
pedal,
cat's making a visit here.
gas pedal, gas pedal.
So I guess kind of my I feel like is the last question on this with the tire thing is, so there wasn't a whole, at the end of the day, when you look at the lapping or the laps in the race, there wasn't a whole lot of passing again. Does this tire potentially become a viable option on a bigger track or no?
Is it needed at a bigger track?
I'm thinking outside the box here a little bit.
I just love the strategy it throws in there.
I mean, I guess it's no different than when we go to a road course and we have the
Wet weather tires.
wet weather tires. Again, we said it earlier before. I'm a fan for it. Let the teams decide when they switch.
Yeah.
I just love the strategy it throws in there because obviously it took 1 lap for old KY to punt Stenhouse Jr. And you saw some of those teams that were going based on the data that they had from the practice session. Hey, these tires can run 40 or 50 laps before they're going to fall off. And not even 2 laps into the race, what did they do? They came down and put yellows on.
Yep.
Going off of the data that they had from practice. And then the guys that stuck out and stayed out on the red, Logano, had built such a gap on the red that the guys in yellow couldn't catch him. I don't know. I just think it throws a whole new dimension of strategy into this. And I'm all for it. I love it. Who's going to be the first guy that's going to come down and put yellows on? Are you going to go back and put a pair of scuffs on and then save, the other red for the last caution. I don't know. I love it.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, if we didn't have that first caution, who's to say how the race would have played out and the strategy would have played out? But that's why the crew chiefs get paid the bucks that they do too.
Fortunately for us, we did get that first caution,
Yeah.
and there was lots to talk about.
Do we? Okay, so do we need to talk more about these tires, or should we get to that next one?
I
Again, I don't see where it's going to help on the bigger tracks. Maybe that's something that helps fix the short tracks. Maybe we introduce it on road courses to introduce a little strategy.
Yeah, I don't know what the answer is. I mean, I do we think this package has done enough to say that this could be our next short track package? Or do we need to go back? Because we were talking about this before you hopped on, and Cam had mentioned he thought there was like 3 laps the entire Open and the All-Star race that weren't led by the guy that started on the pole.
It's like 2 or 3 laps, yeah.
Yeah, Logano led.
Gibbs won flag to flag in the first 100, and there was 1 lap. Logano led 199 at 200. So of 300 laps, there was 1 lap that was led by somebody that didn't start on the pole.
So maybe this package makes an appearance again yet in the regular season here before the playoffs at a different track that the guy that leads the race doesn't have 14 million laps on that track already. Maybe that changes it a little bit. I don't know. I would think it would. The leader can set the pace. That's fine. But at the end of the day, if you don't have the data to go on, you also might have to ride a little bit. And it might give someone else an advantage behind you. That's.
I mean, because the whole practice session, guys went out there. I think it was Bubba Wallace and Tyler Reddick. One guy went out on yellows, one guy went out on reds.
Yep.
And I think it was, they could go 20 or 25 laps before lap time started falling off, and then 40 or 50 laps before it started blistering bad. And you heard it at the 100 lap caution. I was listening to Larson's scanner, and Cliff Daniels his head was in a blender too. He said Logano just ran all 100 laps on the reds. That is twice as long as we expected him to last based on all the data we had from our practice sessions. Whatever. So I don't know. It is a whole new, I don't know. I love the question mark in racing. How long is a tire going to last? When do you put them on? When do you save a set? I don't know. I love it.
Yep.
Any other thoughts?
Nope.
Just not a lot of passing either. That kind of sucked. I mean, hence why Stenhouse went to get as many as he could right away. It felt like once you settled in,
Yeah,
there just wasn't a ton of passing. You could get there, and if you wanted to pass, you had to drive it hard in there and send them. I did like the uniqueness of being able. There was 3 lines at the track.
Yep.
Some guys running the bottom, some guys running the middle, some guys dabbling and running up top. Enjoyed that. That is super cool. Now, if we can just get to a point where we can get a little bit more passing out of it.
Yep. But I think it's good to know that this is an option. If worse came to worse, it's an option. So let's talk about, I think, the elephant in the room when it comes to this race. We bring it up every time something like this happens, but we had a fight. I think everybody saw it coming.
We did.
And obviously, whenever we get a fight in NASCAR, it gets a lot of attention, whether it's through the media, obviously with replays that have been going on, wherever the case may be. We're getting a lot of eyes on this.
I mean, when ESPN's running stories on Monday morning and I'm getting notifications on my ESPN app about a NASCAR fight, yeah.
But the thing for me too, and I mentioned this in our group chat, we're getting a lot of comments about the fight, but not about the race or even the wreck itself.
Let's be honest. Denny Hamlin said it on the podcast today. sorry to the 22 team. No one gives a shit that you won the race.
Yep.
You did. You won $1 million, but no one gives a shit. Let's be honest.
Yep. That.
Yeah.
So let's talk about the race incident itself. The between Stenhouse and Busch. You mentioned it just a couple minutes ago. Stenhouse was getting everything that he needed to on that restart because you knew it probably wasn't you're going to get it later in the race.
Yeah, you
Stenhouse in
could.
the right, is Busch in the right?
As they would say watching the video, I can't remember who said it, you could drive a motorhome through that hole.
I saw a tweet from Dave Moody about that.
I think it was door bumper clear. I think yeah, no, was it door bumper clear? I can't remember. I saw it on Twitter. But somebody just said, "Holy Christ, the hole so wide you could drive a motorhome through there."
Yep.
And I think the determining factor out of it for it all was Ty Gibbs on board.
Yeah.
Was it
He was
Gibbs
sitting
or
behind
Reddick?
him.
Gibbs or Reddick. It was a monster logo car.
Yep. Whoever was sitting behind him.
But you watch Stenhouse, obviously there was a massive hole. And he went in there and must have been Reddick because Gibbs was way in the back. Or had to start in the back.
He would have, yeah, from being a transfer.
So it must have been Reddick. You watch Kyle come off the outside and he tags the wall is what it comes down to, just ever so slightly, and then it shoves him back into Ricky a little bit.
Yep.
Ricky, not to say that he squeezed him up there a little bit, but from that onboard, it looked clear as day that old KY Kyle Busch got the wall, which caused the entire thing. And I'm sticking to it.
I wish I could see the video of like timed up from Reddick's on board to the camera shot because then get you that side view as well. So you can kind of time it up as to when Busch hit the wall, where was Stenhouse's bumper when he hit the wall, type of scenario too. Because I mean Busch ran up too. He was high on that line, and there weren't many guys that were going to be able to run that high either without having to lift or put another crank in the wheel or something like that too.
Right. Yeah. Two guys that are maybe a little bit disgruntled on how the year's been going?
Maybe a little bit.
Question mark. I have a hard time believing that the way the season's been going that they're not a little bit frustrated.
Oh yeah.
And as Kyle Busch said it, I effing suck just as much as you do, or just as much as you do. Good job. I think he gave him a thumbs up at the end of the video.
I think the other thing, it's not great to do this on lap 2 of a 200 lap race.
Yeah.
Stack the chips and keep it in the back of your mind.
At the end of the day, we saw the way Rowdy was chasing him. You knew it was coming.
Oh yeah.
He hammered on it, and he was going to go get him no matter what. It was listening to Stenhouse's radio. It wasn't like they even thought he was coming for them.
Yeah.
Like you just listen. Oh, they were just talking, and then all of a sudden he wrecked us. So it wasn't like the 47 that thought they had like seriously ousted them, and then they were running to hide. That thought didn't really cross their mind because they didn't feel like they were in the wrong. Which rightfully so, you got to defend your driver.
Yeah.
But I don't know. The on track part is interesting because there's cameras everywhere and you can watch all of them.
Yep. And then obviously, we talked about the fight itself, and I mean, it garnered a lot of attention, but like we said, everybody's talking about that and not the race. And does this bring viewers in and all this jazz too? Ultimately we can't rely on a fight to keep ratings.
No.
We got to have good product on the track.
Correct. It's just a matter of the ones that do now watch this next week to see what happens. Do they wait it out another week after that? If nothing happens, so say nothing, these guys don't get near each other the whole race.
Yep.
Nothing happens. is that new viewer next week going to tune in 2 weeks from now to see, hey, are those two going to get together again?
Yeah.
Or does it spark a genuine interest in the sport? It's hard to track those data points to know what the net gain or loss is from the fight.
Got a hell of a race too, with a 600-mile race. It's a long race next week too. It ain't for the faint of heart.
Correct.
So, when we talk about the fight itself, everything was fine in the world. Everybody was chatting it out. Everybody obviously was gathered around. Ricky throws the first punch, which, from a boxer standpoint, not a great punch, but he still landed it.
He spun his hat sideways.
And then all hell broke loose. Yeah, obviously got crew guys involved, and Ricky's dad was in there, and it's just, we've talked about this before, where it starts with the drivers. Crews don't get involved with the drivers. You kind of do it hockey style, maybe. Were the ethics followed?
No. Now, I am going to tell you there's some people that crossed a few lines in terms of Mr. 8 crew guy that was playing King of the Castle there on the lift gate. I'm good with what he was up to.
I agree. You're on my equipment. I need you off of it.
He didn't want people in his trailer.
Yep.
And he said, "Get the F out of here. I don't want you on here." He was playing Royal Rumble, and I got his back on that deal. Part I'm good with, because that trailer is, you can call it your personal space. It's the crew's trailer. They have the right to be in there. No one else should be in their trailer except for their authorized RCR.
It's just like a couple years ago with Adam Stevens and Christian Bell's crew. Nobody had a problem with it until Stevens got up in their face in their box.
Yep. So, Mr. King of the Castle there, I got you, dog. If you see this, you're my dog.
He's also a guy, I look at the size of him, I wouldn't want to piss him off anyways.
He looks like he's probably somebody that played Division I linebacker somewhere.
Oh yeah, he's a big boy.
Division I football. But yeah, that he I'm good with. Now, I didn't realize until this morning, the guy in the gray shirt, that was Stenhouse's father.
Yep.
Senior.
Yeah. Anytime you got a senior, it's going to get interesting.
Senior found himself in there, and he found himself landing Mr. Right Hook.
And getting a right hook.
And I'm going to say this, I don't usually like to do this, but I'm going to say he got to land one, and I'm glad Rowdy got one back.
Yep.
At the end of the day, he shouldn't have been in there to begin with. If you're going to take a cheap one, I'm glad Rowdy got one back.
And yeah, again, you got to let the drivers do their thing. The crews could be on their own as well. Yeah, let security handle the drivers. Let the crew guys go at it, and once the drivers are separated, you start going with the crew guys.
Correct. I just didn't like the intermingling, because then at one point, one of the guys from the Stenhouse crew had Bush in a rear naked choke. I'm like, dude's gonna choke him out yet today? Yeah. Like, somebody runs over and grabs him by the back of the neck, but I'm like, there was too many parties that were intermingling for me to be like, yeah, this is a fair game here.
Yeah, I mean, we obviously saw that too a while back with Stephen Assey and Girio.
Yes. Yeah.
That one got ugly. That one was obviously This one was nowhere near that, but I mean, it's the same lines. You got too many people involved, and people that they're not on the crew, and they're not the driver themselves that are getting involved. Right. And that's when suspensions start getting handed out.
Yep.
I mean,
yes, and then we got this lovely photo from Bob Pockris.
Oh man,
the fact that he could take that in stride is just.
Oh, he was right. He was right in the thick of it. It was so funny how Stenhouse was.
They're just
waiting.
Before one other point I want to make, yeah, once he Stenhouse's dad, why is he in the middle of it? Crew guys, oh, uh,
For those that are listening, Kellen just flashed his hat at us. It's Rowdy Energy.
Which no longer exists, I don't think.
yeah,
No, but anyways,
I had it and I had to put it on. Like, what are the chances? I don't know whose party I'm in yet. I haven't decided.
I'm Stenhouse all the way. But to your point, the whole crew is getting involved. Obviously, it's everybody's around it. Everybody knew it was going to happen, so that's why we got a pile of people around there, and crews are going to get involved. And at least the crews didn't start swinging at each other. Obviously, Buddy was playing King of the Hill and getting people out of there, which is fine.
well,
I'm
again,
good with
he's getting
that.
guys off his truck.
Yeah. But the crew guys weren't swinging at each other for the most part. Obviously, everybody was hot, but I mean, I will say one thing. Kudos to Ricky for sticking to his guns.
Yes.
On lap 2, he said, or when he was in the infield care center after he got wrecked, he said, just watch after the race and I'll handle it. So kudos to him for telling us on about lap 20 of 200 that he was going to handle his business after the race.
He had
That
198 laps to sit there and stew on it because he couldn't get out.
Yep. So
So
obviously he couldn't leave the facility, so he was stuck in the infield. Which again, to your guys' point, why Dale Jr. said concrete all the race.
Tunnels
Yep.
out.
But I
it's quite
mean,
pathetic.
yeah, kudos to Ricky for saying it and sticking to it.
Yeah.
That's quite the take from Dale Jr.
Yeah, it is. So I don't know. I mean, the fight's the fight. It is what it is. Again, there's handled in some cases good, some bad. I don't think you're ever going to get a perfect one.
No. No, like I said, I think if you're going to do it, let the drivers have at it and let the crews have at it. It shouldn't be a crew and a driver and a third party or a fourth party in this matter. If you're going to do it, crews can do crews, drivers can have the drivers, let them sort it out. And when it gets to a point where we're maybe doing a little more damage to each other than we should, then we'll shut her down.
Yep.
Step in before someone gets hurt.
Yep. So
I don't
I
know.
don't know. We'll see. We'll see how this comes out of this. Obviously, drivers never forget. So
This is a little bit of a Boyer-esque type scene.
There's so many layers to it. I think so. Stenhouse says after the race, we've raced each other fine. I thought we were, we're not the best of friends, but we text each other. We share some information back and forth. We're both in the Chevy camp. He's like, we're not best friends. And then he said, like, last year or so, Kyle started running his mouth about him and this, that, and the other thing, and had no issues. But then I think you couple that in, and then you throw in the frustrations of both how they're running to thus point in the year, and then you throw in on lap 2 we got that chrome horn out. I mean, we're 3 layers deep into
Yeah.
why this escalated. So I don't know.
The memes that have come out of Ricky standing there in his khaki shorts at the trailer, with his legs crossed, waiting for Rowdy. A couple of them I've seen the old Wild West.
I will say one thing: Ricky standing there on that interview, he looked pretty well put together.
Ricky had the crazy eyes out. I'm just telling you.
Crazy eyes out, and I was looking at his arms, and I'm like, Buddy looks like he pumped some iron.
oh yeah, he's hands down one of the most fit guys. I mean, he does CrossFit all the time.
And then you're looking at old KY, who's in full dad mode.
Yeah. I'd just be so to go a little bit more away from the fight itself. I'd be curious to see, the Monday morning debriefs, what those are like at the shop.
Well, then you got to think about what RCR is going to say when they obviously listen to their driver say he sucks.
Richard could hold my watch if he wants.
That was a good one. That was a good one. I'll give Stenhouse that one. That was solid. I don't know. I'd be curious. Does NASCAR come out and say something? Do
I
the teams come out? Obviously the drivers are going to stick to themselves. So I don't see them coming out with statements. It's been
if something's gonna happen, I think it's gonna be with Senior because you had a third party involved.
Yeah, he needs a little something. I think I'm
If
a
something
Stenhouse
happens,
team Stenhouse guy, but I just think him getting in the middle of it was a little bit too far removed from the conversation.
yep.
So I don't know. Makes for a hell of a storyline. They got a segment on Pat McAfee,
I mean,
and
as
the best part was they got him on Pat McAfee, and he goes, I think these guys race each other next week too. And they go, oh yeah, they do. And the one guy in the corner goes, all right, let's go. I'm like, oh my god.
well, I mean,
Oh,
long race this weekend. Obviously, this is I would say Stenhouse isn't going to let this go, and I don't think Kyle Busch is going to let this go.
this is gonna get interesting.
And we still got a
So,
little bit. We got still got over half of the season left.
um,
For guys that are gonna probably be, is Rowdy want a race? No.
Nope.
So these guys are gonna be scrapping to get points.
no, and the other
Bush
part,
is 13th and Stenhouse is 26th.
Okay.
the other part too, I was sitting there when I was listening or watching all that. Did you see old Andy Petrie just standing there taking it all in when he says, I fucking suck just as bad as you? I'm like, boy, Petrie had a front row seat to that. So
Anyone else notice the guy in the R on Brad Keselowski's trailer in the background standing there?
Yeah.
yeah.
Cool as a cucumber. He's just chilling, watching about 15 guys Royal Rumble. He's just, hey guys, what's going on?
Yep. Yep.
Just chilling.
Yikes.
Um no,
Yeah.
it,
Lot to unpack.
Yeah. Any other thoughts on any of the events from this weekend from anywheres before we kind of look ahead to
I do
what's
have
gonna
the I do got the whiteboard segment.
Oh,
So
yeah.
obviously we mentioned we've been talking about Kyle Larson, um generational talent. Totally good with if we got to push the race back an hour for him to show up, push it back an hour. Um I'm good with it. Best in the business, and what we are witnessing right now, I don't think we're arguably,
see
I
it
don't
next year because he's doing it again next year.
I mean, outside of him, are we ever going to see in our lifetime a driver as skilled as him?
Boy, that's gonna be something.
From a wing sprint to an Indy car to a NASCAR
To a
to a
dirt late
midget
model.
to a dirt late model. But there's only one thing left that he's got to win. And maybe next year we can check this one off.
There's only one race for those that are listening. There's only one race left for Kyle Larson that will solidify him as the greatest to ever race. The Kentucky Derby. He's small enough. He could almost pass for a jockey.
Oh my god, that was good. Oh,
I was thinking, I'm like, what races hasn't he won?
the Derby.
What races has he not had his name in the mix? Obviously, he just checked another huge box.
Yeah.
I gotta find the one from Dave Moody. Because Dave Moody is one of them guys, like I hear him say the phrase, he's tougher than a $2 steak all the time. So he's like one of them guys that just throws those phrases out.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to find the one that he had about Larson. Oh, pick a race, any race. Kyle Larson finishes on the podium in a shopping cart.
Jesus Christ. I mean, dude can drive it, that's for sure.
So,
Oh man.
all right. Should we look ahead here a little bit to some races that's going on this weekend? Because, like I said, there's a lot of good stuff going on.
Yeah, I think we should.
Oh, and you might as well start then, Kellen, because I think you got a one that I think really all of us can enjoy.
Yeah, so race preview number one for the year. You have the or for the episode, Jesus. ASA Stars National Tour at Hickory for the Tar Heel 250. So this is their third race of the season. Gio Ruggiero was your 2023 winner. When you're looking at the points, the top six are all within 54. So Butcher, Roderick, Ruggiero, Pollard, Jet Nolan, Stephen Assey. And then some surprise entrants for the race itself. Josh Berry, Chase Elliott, a couple NASCAR stars, William Sawalich, Caden Quapple, Brent Cruz, Cody Connor, Connor Jones. They don't have a ton of cars, but the cars that are showing up, there's going to be some horsepower. So that you can go ahead and see that race coming up. I believe that's the 24th. So
Hold, please.
Almost positive.
I'm
25th.
hopping right.
Or
I'm
no,
hopping-
sorry, wrong ASA.
should be the 20,
23rd.
23rd. So that'd be Jeepers. That'd be a
It's a
Thursday
Thursday
night.
show.
Yep. So that's ASA Stars back on track, literally and metaphorically.
All right. Cam, you got one for sure that you want to
Yep.
kind of touch on.
Well, the elephant in the room, we've touched on it already. Believe it's the longest race of the year. The old Coke 600 at Charlotte. Feel like it's just an iconic just on Memorial Day, Memorial Weekend. This event under the lights, fantastic spectacle. Nothing screams America too. There's reports that the 45th is going to be there, taking the race in. Old Don. So we'll see. They're already talking that could impact Larson's travel. So
Yep.
into that. But obviously, Kyle Larson's doing the double. Blaney was your winner last year. That hack led 163 laps.
Those are fighting words.
Just the stray. It was Blaney, Byron, Truex, Bubba, Reddick, Rowdy, Stenhouse. So yeah, we'll see what comes out of the
right next to each other in the finishing order there. What are the chances?
No
Yikes.
kidding. So obviously Ricky said it's a good track for him in his post-race interview last night. Yeah, we'll see what comes out of that. If those two get by each other, how they race, and if there's any retaliation. And then obviously we talked about Stewart-Haas. Has Ford kind of figured it out, and potentially Stewart-Haas. We talked about them a lot on the podcast. See if maybe they can get a good run. And yeah, so stay tuned. Our tire changer is probably going to be just pumping out content this week. So turn those notifications on.
Yeah, so I want to touch on the, obviously the Indy 500 this weekend. I'll do a preview on that this week, so keep an eye out for that. But I want to touch on the Little 500. It's a Silver Crown type sprint car race. They run for 500 laps at the Anderson Speedway. They do live pit stops here, so it's not uncommon for this race to have, 1, 2, 3 cars finish on the lead lap. Last year, there was only 3 cars that finished on lead lap. So Ryan Newman's on the entry list. Cody Swanson's on the entry list. Like I said, all of the guys that you typically see on the asphalt Silver Crown side of things, you'll see them here this weekend. So 500 laps of racing on a nice little short track. Always ends up being a pretty good race there. So looking forward to that. Otherwise, myself and Kellen will be at Jefferson this weekend for the ASA Midwest Tour race. Salute to the Troops 100. It's race number 3 on the year for the ASA Midwest Tour. Dalton Zier was your winner last year. It's a quarter-mile bull ring with a little bit of bacon 1 and 2. Kellen, I'm excited for you to see this in person because they run 1 and 2 different than 3 and 4.
Entry list came out like minutes ago. So as of right now, you have 23 cars on the entry list. I would say your one surprise Your one big surprise, James Swan.
Hey,
Johnson. Oh, Paulie Schaefer.
Paulie Schaefer, he's won there. He's raced there before. I think he's won it before.
Johnson, Haver, Schaefer, Mullen, Hoffman,
Yep.
Miller, Cody King, Summers, Kaler, Vandergeest, Braden Berge, Joe Valento, Ty Fredrickson, Jordan Devoy, back in the car. Good to see that. Mondag, Schulze, Lynch, Stenjum, Farrell, Edmonds, Majeski. Oh, Majeski. Didn't even realize that.
I suppose because I don't think trucks are racing this weekend.
Nope. So that'll be your 23 car field. You got,
What are you
again,
talking
not,
about?
not a huge car count, but some good cars.
Yeah.
Trucks are racing this weekend.
Oh, they're racing on Friday. That's why. Yeah. So he can pull that off.
38 trucks for 36 spots.
Yep, that's right. Yep. So then still he can he can race on Friday and then race on Saturday.
Yes, sir. Last little preview worth a mention. Show me 100 at Lucas Oil Speedway for the Lucas Oil Dirt Late Models. 100 laps, 15 or 100 laps, 50 grand to win. Those guys are there for 3 days of racing, May 23rd, 24th, and 25th. So they got 3 days, 2 days for the big show to get tested and tuned and ready to rock and roll for that. So 100 laps, 50 grand to win, healthy payday. So just worth a quick mention.
Oh, fair enough. Typically we talk about fantasy, but we didn't have a fantasy race this weekend. Being the All-Star, they didn't do anything. So we don't have anything on that, but we could talk about our race picks. Kellen went on a limb and took Ty Gibbs, who was going to have to race his way in from the open, and ended up paying off because he did end up running the main event. But that got him last out of the three of us still, even running the main event. So we're picking for the Coke 600 as we always do. We pick for NASCAR for the following weekend. Picking order is gonna be Kellen, Cam, and then myself, who I had Larson for this one. So Coke 600, who you fellas got?
Truex.
Ooh,
I got Truex.
all right, Cam, you're up next.
It's going double duty. I'm gonna pick Kyle Larson.
Ooh, you think he's gonna win one of them?
Yep.
Oh,
That'd be history in its own right. Actually, have a driver win one of them.
yeah. Yeah, go ahead. Pencil yourself in. We know who you're going to pick.
No, I don't think you do. I'm gonna take Byron.
Oh,
Byron was
okay.
really good here last year. Obviously, him and Blaney were going back and forth, but I think Byron's going to be the one that pulls it off.
Fair enough.
Well, do you think Larson can do it? Do you think he can pull the double off?
He'll run both, yeah.
Run the full 1,100 miles?
I hope so.
I hope so too. I hope he just has a good run of the 500.
Yep.
Makes all let's be honest. We need him to just make all the laps, be competitive.
Yep, for sure. So, no, it's going to be a great weekend of racing. Obviously, Memorial Day weekend. There's a lot to be thankful for as we going into it. We get to be able to do this for the sacrifices that those that went and fought for us were able to do what we do. So thank a veteran if you can, especially if you're at the racetrack this weekend. But again, we got a lot of great racing this weekend. So no shortage of it. Keep an eye out for that. Should we touch on some other races that are going on here real quick?
Yeah, Cam.
Yeah, coming in hot and heavy.
What you got, boss?
I'm gonna test those reading skills for the first time in my life on the podcast. All right. Let's jump right in. Extreme Outlaw Midgets, Millbridge, USAC's Amsoil Sprint Cars, Terre Haute Action Track, and then Circle City Raceway. Midgets again at Millbridge, ASA Stars National Tour, already touched on that at Hickory. Southern Super Series.
It's a co-sanctioned race.
Okay. Already touched on Luke's late models. World Outlaw Sprint at Atomic Speedway. Trucks are racing Friday night. Arkham Menards Friday as well. USAC Silver Crown Tire change already checked on that or touched on that. Yeah, good Lord. Big 8 late models, Powerized sprint cars, cars tour. Jump in. What am I not touching? Obviously
I
the
mean,
Indy
obviously the Indy
500, high
500,
limit,
all NASCAR's racing.
Formula One,
They're part
World
of
of
the triple
Outlaw.
header. World of Outlaws. Sprint cars are racing. Late
World of,
models are racing.
yep.
I think it's just about everybody's racing this weekend.
High Limit, Formula One, Polaroid, World of Outlaws, Cars, ASA Midwest Tour, NASCAR. Well, bam, dirt late models up here by us.
The Midwest Truck Series. They're racing at Sands this weekend.
Sands, yep. Trickle 99, super late models, Golden Sands.
Your boy will be there.
You got it. You want it, you got it. Hell yeah.
Hey, it's just a great month. I love May.
Everything's finally up and at it hard.
So, no, obviously no shortage of it. If you can't get to the racetrack, there's the streaming services. But obviously, if you can, go and support your local short track. It's always a great time of year for them. Weather's always decent. It's a great time of year. You can't beat it. Nothing's
Have a
better.
cheeseburger while you're
Have a cheeseburger while you're at it. Attaboy. So,
there.
well, I suppose we'll sign off here. Again, we got a lot of great racing, a lot of great storylines, and hopefully we got a lot more to talk about next week. So be sure to subscribe to the YouTube channel, hit that bell for whenever any videos are posted. Check us out on the rest of our socials. And we'll see you all next week.